and welcome everyone to this week's Maternity Midwifery Hour. My name's Sue Macdonald and I'm the curator. I nearly said the caterer. I think I must be thinking of those mince pies. The curator for this hour and the Maternity Midwifery Festivals. And it's my pleasure to be chairing this evening, which is going to be slightly different. It's week 13 of the 11th series. I can't believe it's the 11th series. And we're having a selection box, and you can see my lovely, lovely guests with me who've come to celebrate and give you a selection box. So I hope that you all have a selection of goodies with you. I think I mentioned before having sort of mince pies or a few crisps or a little glass of wine, something like that with you. We've got plain water, I think. Maybe a cup of tea. Ho, ho, cup of tea. So I'm going to ask our lovely guests to share a kind of festive moment this week. We usually ask for a moment of the week, but this time it's a festive moment. So I'm going to ask, first of all, maybe Lesley, because she looks as though she's got a very good moment coming up. And welcome.
Thanks, Sue. Lovely being with you again. Well, I'm feeling very excited because my oldest son, my first son, who lives way up in the north of Canada, is coming over for Christmas for a few weeks.
Oh.
And so we've been messaging backwards and forwards and making some plans. And he's a great cook. So he asked the other day if it would be all right if he cooked the turkey. Well, you can imagine what I said to that. So
did you say yes?
Of course. So it's my Ian, my baby, who is now 2 years old. He lives way up near the Arctic Circle. So it's quite a journey coming over here.
And I think it'd be delightful for him. How lovely. And have someone doing the cooking for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe even the washing up.
That would be the big thing. But all of my family have said that they're going to help, and they're doing the shopping, and they're going to do the clearing up. So
this sounds like it's going to be a proper Christmas. Thank you so much, Lesley. That's lovely. Well, should we try Dianne now with her antlers, which I believe do make a noise when they move?
They do. They do. Thank you. Well, I partly wore these, not just for Christmas, but because I've always called myself a vintage midwife, like a nice vintage wine or cheese. But this was to sort of make me feel younger, because I don't like being called an old midwife or mature or anything. And I've always felt that. And then I was travelling this week and I had to get a train up to Paddington. And this very young man saw me struggling with my suitcase with all my teaching items in it and said, "May I help you, madam, with your suitcase?" And I thought, oh, okay, for once I actually don't mind being vintage. So he carried that and I said, "Thank you very much," and then carried on. And then coming home at Victoria Station, there was a more mature woman than me, and she was struggling with her suitcase. So I offered to carry hers up. So that made me feel really good about myself and that I'm not old. But I think I did it really to show that there is some season of goodwill out there. And sometimes, particularly young people, I think are often hammered about, their ways they are. And this young man was great for me. And I hope I made that lady's day as well by getting her up the stairs at Victoria. So that was my festive moment.
Oh, that's lovely. And that's a passing on of goodness. That's a passing on. That's lovely. What a lovely example. And you're not old. It's just you just don't feel any different, do you, in your brain? But thank you for sharing that. How about Anna? Have you got a festive moment?
Yeah, I had a really lovely one actually. I was so lucky that my gorgeous cousin Mike, who's done some work for us to support us in our organisation, he was getting rid of an old Christmas tree. He'd updated his decorations, and I love Christmas decorations. I think all the twinkling lights are beautiful, aren't they, when we face the dark? And yeah, exactly. But I'd already sort of set up my decorations in the home with the children, and we've done it super early this year. But I did this thing where I took it and I did a secret elf set up in my friend's house who wasn't going to have a Christmas tree. And so whilst he was at work, he was working a night shift. I set up the Christmas tree in his house so that when he came home, he was like greeted by this lovely, warm, glowing light. So it's really nice because he keeps sending me pictures of the tree looking all lovely. So it's like a passing on of a gift, which has felt really nice. So that's been a nice highlight.
That's super, Anna. That is so lovely. Yeah. And what a lovely thing to do. I've got a lump in my throat because that's a really lovely, kind thing another kindness handed over. Thank you so much. That's lovely. I bet that Christmas tree will be talked about for years now, which is fabulous.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabulous. Now, Jenny.
Oh, Jenny.
Well, okay. Jenny.
Well, Jenny. Okay. Well, I mean, I could mutually sort of say what Lesley said, because actually this year we've got all of our family coming, but they've all said that they're going to cook the dinner and do everything. So I'm going, okay, that's fine.
Wow.
And which is, it's really lovely. Need that this year. But no, just this morning, I mean, we haven't got our tree up yet, Anna. I mean, we've just gone to go and get one today, and it's sitting in the kitchen ready to do something with it. But this morning, my daughter came round with my granddaughter, who is 3, and she'd made her first mince pies this morning.
Oh,
she's brought them round for us, which was really sweet. And it's the first real Christmas that she's going to understand it, and she's going to be an angel in her nursery play tomorrow.
How
I know,
sweet.
it just makes you go,
it does.
Done it. But yeah, so it's yes, I have been having some festive moments, so thank you.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Well, I'm feeling a bit more Christmassy now. This is grand. Because I was just saying that for me, I'm a bit late with my things, and I'm usually doing a lot of Christmas puds, and I've only just done my half of them, and I've only just made my cake, so I'm running a bit late. So I'm just now, because we're here with friends and with you, all of you there behind the screens, I'm beginning to feel a bit more festive. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with all of us. And I just wanted to, I usually do this little spiel to those of you who've come in to see us. And I don't know, for some of you, it might be the first time you're coming on the Maternity Midwifery Hour. Some of you might be our regulars. I know we've got a huge amount of people who come in and watch and participate on a regular basis. So welcome to you. Now, we started this right at the beginning in lockdown as a way of linking midwives and student midwives and everyone really working in maternity services up at a time when they couldn't do study days, couldn't do conferences or festivals. So this was a way of just connecting everybody, which has been really great. And we kind of carried on, haven't we? We're in now series 11. Series 12 is going to be starting in January. So we've become a kind of institution, I think. But our quality has changed, hasn't got worse. It's just the things that we're looking at are slightly different. Right at the beginning, we looked a lot more at COVID and how that was affecting maternity services. And now we do all sorts of things, from continuity of care to humanising childbirth to traumatic birth to communicating with babies, everything you can imagine. And we've had loads of that this year, and we've had some fantastic sessions this year. It's been really special. And I should say that next week we're going to have a sort of top 10 of this year's Maternity Midwifery Hours is going to be kind of presented. But I have to say, I would say they're sort of top 40 actually, because they've all had something special about them. They've all been really good. I've really enjoyed them anyway. And I hope you have too. And I hope you continue to do so. And remember, everything that we do is recorded. So if you miss anything, or one of my colleagues mentioned something and you think, oh, that sounds interesting, have a look on MATFLIX, because you will find everything's there and it's easy to access and it's free to access, unless you have a fancy box set. And my colleague Jenny does the curating of those box sets, and she puts little added extras in those, and they're really, really good. if you're doing something like a seminar on something, or you're doing a dissertation or a project, this really focuses if you push for time. Really fantastic resource. But just going back to these, do share, tell your friends, tell your colleagues. We're slightly different tonight, as you'll find out, but you'll get a gist of some of the flavour of the things that we can discuss and debate. So that's been fantastic. Now I'm going to say, because I think these festive moments kind of sum up some of the things we need to be feeling. We need to be feeling nourished and looked after, cared for by each other. And it's a very important time of the year for doing that. I mean, it's difficult because the health service is stressed. As we come into winter, it's always a bit more stressed, and it's not that people are asking for more because they're asking for more. It's because they need it, because we haven't got quite enough staff, and there's a lot to do to provide the care we want to. So I'm going to say a big thank you to all of the staff who are working their socks off to make sure that care is being provided across the board, and especially in maternity services. Good on you, and look after yourselves. And that's, I hope, the message which will come through in all of the discussions this evening, because if you don't look after yourself, it's very difficult to look after others, and you're just as precious as the people you're caring for. So I'm just going to do a quick news, because there's a lot of news, and a lot of it is very difficult to cope with at the moment, and very difficult to kind of get to grips with. So I'm going to be on quite a skating on the top level of this. I'm going to say we're in Advent, in case you didn't know. Lots of the merchandising is amazing because everyone's focusing on Advent, but it has got a meaning towards Christmas. And also we're into Hanukkah or Chanukah. So a big happy Chanukah. This is the Jewish festival of lights. And I'm a tweeter, and the lovely Laura Godfrey Isaac says, and she put a lovely phrase in to celebrate Hanukkah, to say we can all hope we can step out of the darkness and into the light. And I think that, for me, resonates very, very deeply. The other nice thing, I want to give a nice thing, is guess what? Late last week, UNESCO inscribed midwifery knowledge, skills and practices on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Hey, isn't it though?
Yeah.
And it's fantastic to be named in that way, and raising the profile of midwifery that we need to do. Okay, so I'm going to move into the meat of the day now. Tonight's all about getting into a festive mood. So there is a quiz, and I hope our audience have some treats. So that's you watching and participating. I hope you got some treats. We're just catching up. These are some of our friends. I know there are other friends behind us, but I know that there's also a time when people have been unwell and people have been caught up with trying to catch up with everything before the festive break. So I must say thank you to our lovely speakers for participating this evening. And also just to remind you that the full CVs are all on the main page. So I'm just going to give edited highlights as we go. Now I'm going to start, and we have a quiz. We always have a little bit of a quiz, but I'm going to start this, I think, after the first presentation, just to get the timing right on it, because I have to do 2 questions which come up and you can answer with the correct answers, and then we go on to the next speaker. So I'll start off with Joy Kemp, and she's working with UNFPA in Bangladesh. She's worked all over the place, but she's certainly worked at the RCM. She's a very experienced midwife, an educator. She will introduce herself. And I've known Joy for a long time. She's a real midwife. She's passionate about improving education and practice in the whole world, as well as a lovely author. And she's also going to mention Gaynor McLean, who we heard that had died very recently, sadly. So I'm going to cue Angelo, who's in the background, making sure everything's running smoothly, to cue Joy Kemp's presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry not to be joining you live this evening, but here in Bangladesh, we're 6 hours ahead of the UK, and it's now the early hours of the morning, or it will be when you're watching this. And I have a busy day planned for tomorrow, so I'll be having an early night. So thank goodness for the wonders of technology that allow me to join you virtually. First, a huge thank you to Sue for inviting me to participate this evening. So let me introduce myself. I am Joy Kemp. I'm a midwife from the UK working with UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency in Bangladesh. I joined UNFPA in July this year. Prior to that, I was working with the Royal College of Midwives in the UK as the Global Professional Advisor, managing the RCM's global health partnerships in Bangladesh, Cambodia, Nepal, and Uganda. You might be familiar with our textbook, Global Midwifery, Principles, Policy and Practice, which I co-authored a couple of years ago with Dr. Gaynor McLean and Nesta Moyo. So I can't miss this opportunity just to express my deep sense of loss and sadness, having received the news this week that Gaynor had recently passed away following a period of ill health. I first heard about Gaynor when I was a student midwife. At that stage, she was working with WHO, the World Health Organization, designing the first Safe Motherhood modules. And I remember my tutor telling me about that work and how important that would be for midwives around the world. Gaynor worked with us at the RCM as a consultant, helping to shape the international strategy and writing some e-learning resources for us on global midwifery. And her book, Tiger Stripes and Tears, and a series of articles that she wrote for the British Journal of Midwifery really helped midwives working internationally to carefully consider their role and reflect on how their approach could either help or hinder the efforts of midwives in other countries and contexts. So I hugely admired Gaynor's creative approach to teaching, learning, and sharing knowledge. She designed several games for midwives, including one on the partogram and one called Why Did Mrs. X Die?, to help midwives understand care in labour and causes of maternal mortality. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, when I moved into care for my dying father, I moved into my parents' house to care for my dying father at the same time as our publisher was waiting for us to submit the manuscript for our book. I will never forget how Gaynor stepped in to write some of the chapters that I was supposed to write and keep us on track to meet the publisher's deadline. Gaynor will be hugely missed by her family, especially her twin sister Sheila, and her many friends and colleagues, and also by me. So on to our work here in Bangladesh. This is my team on my first day. UNFPA is supporting the government of Bangladesh to introduce midwifery as a profession separate from nursing. And much has already been achieved by our amazing national team and a few fantastic international midwifery specialists. It's an honour and a privilege to have joined this team. It has been a challenging end to the year with a general election planned in Bangladesh for January and much political unrest just now, which interrupts our programmes and prevents us from travelling around the countries to implement our activities. But still, this team is achieving amazing things, and I was delighted last week to join in the annual general meeting of the Bangladesh Midwifery Society and to see how the new generation of young midwives are stepping into leadership and raising their voices to ensure the enabling environment they need to provide high quality midwifery-led care to every woman in Bangladesh. So looking forward to next year, we have a new partnership with the International Confederation of Midwives to continue supporting the fledgling Midwifery Society. We're working with 2 Swedish universities to develop the new generation of midwife teachers and to ensure the quality of midwifery education. And we're supporting the 400 plus humanitarian midwives who are providing midwifery care to the 1 million Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. And we're continuing to work with the government of Bangladesh to build the professional framework for midwifery, advocating for the rapid deployment of the 20,000 plus midwives that are needed in the health workforce here to provide comprehensive sexual and reproductive health for every woman and her family. I'm travelling back to the UK for Christmas and the New Year, but I look forward to all that 2024 holds for strengthening midwifery in Bangladesh. Thanks very much for having me. And here is my email if you'd like to know more about our work here. And I'll wish you all good night. Thank you.
Fantastic. And it's so good to see so many young midwives and the whole concept of having midwifery in Bangladesh. Fantastic. So and I know that for those of you who are interested, Joy will be very interested to link up with you. So do so. Follow the email and you can be in contact with Joy, and she's lovely and will give you lots of information if you need it, or links and that sort of thing. And I know our audience are very much into getting links and making relationships. So thank you for that lovely presentation, and for speaking about Gaynor McLean, who was a lovely woman, very generous and kind and very knowledgeable and very keen to share her knowledge, which is also fantastic. Now I'm going to just lighten again. We're going to just do 2 questions on the Christmas quiz. And this is one you'll need to have a little think about. And this is, number 1, how many types of bird and how many birds in all did my true love bring to me on the 12th day of Christmas? And you'll remember about partridges and things and other flighted creatures. And you just need to go onto this Slido using your mobile phones at the ready. The speakers don't get a chance to do this. Okay, that's question 1. How many types of bird and how many birds in all did my true love bring to me on the 12th day of Christmas? And the second question is, what is the chance of a white Christmas in England and Wales? There are the answers, I think. Okay, so the answer to number 1 is 6 types, and that's partridge, turtle dove, French hen, calling birds, geese, and swans. 23 in all. Yeah. And what is the chance of the white Christmas? I'm just waiting for that to come up. Mustn't give you an answer first. There aren't any rich prizes for this, may I? Sadly. It'll be the honour of winning. I'm just waiting for these to come up now. Oh, our IT is a bit slow today. Oh, it's gone. Okay.
Oh, it is.
Okay, good. It's 1 in 10. And this is all statistical, so I don't know how it was worked out. There we are. Okay. So that's the end of the quiz for now. If this might take a long time, my lovely speakers, if we're going to have to wait for the IT to work. Anyway, the next person I'm going to introduce to say a few words is Dr. Jenny Hall, who's our MATFLIX editor and lead on the box sets, a committed academic writer and midwife, and also a bit of a creative and reflective lead. She's also an RCM fellow and is a generally fantastic midwife. Jenny, welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Sue. You're always so lovely. But thank you so much for inviting me and for having this opportunity again to talk. It was lovely to hear Joy Kemp as well. Wonderful for the work that she's doing out there. But interestingly, what I'm saying is going to follow on a little bit of what she's talking about from a global perspective, because I have been thinking a lot in recent months and weeks about refugees and getting angry, as I'm sure some of you have as well out there, with what's going on in our countries. I mean, obviously, this is specifically from a UK perspective, but been thinking a lot about those people who are across the world who are a transient population, as escaping different things such as war and poverty, particular governments that who are almost terrorist as well, and sometimes the weather. There are different reasons as to why people become refugee status, and I've been thinking about this in relation to Christmas, because for those of you who perhaps don't know the Bible and the stories about Mary and Joseph, is that they had to go down to Bethlehem to sign themselves on, because they were at that time with a government in their particular country who were the Romans. They were occupied as a country. And of course, Bethlehem is on the West Bank of Israel, which is at the moment, it is cut off as well. It's a separate place from Palestine, from Israel. It's occupied. And Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem, after they'd had baby Jesus, they were visited by some wise men who came from, they say, possibly Iraq, Iran, that sort of area, who came and were following a star. They were people who were wise people, and they went to see Herod, who was actually in charge of Israel at that time. And Herod was not a very nice man. And because he was concerned that this baby was going to take over his power, he said, right, well, I'm going to kill all the newborn baby boys. So these wise men advised Mary and Joseph not to stay in Israel at this time. And they actually went off to Egypt and became refugees. And this is all very poignant, isn't it, with what is going on in Gaza at the moment. And it's just made me think very much of those people who are transient at this time. But also what's happened in the past fortnight is that we have a poet in this country who has sadly died very recently, very young, called Benjamin Zephaniah. And if you have seen some of the poems or heard of some of the poems that he's written, he was a Jamaican man who lived in this country in England. and wrote quite a few poems about racist things that had happened to him and about his story. But what I wanted to read to you is just a couple, if I've got time, I'll just keep an eye on the time. But there's a couple of his poems. I mean, obviously it's much better if you can see his YouTube readings of them, because he's reading them in his accent, and I don't have that, so I'm not even going to try to attempt that. But the poem that I'd like to read you first is We Refugees. I come from a musical place where they shoot me for my song, and my brother has been tortured by my brother in my land. I come from a beautiful place where they hate my shade of skin. They don't like the way I pray, and they ban free poetry. I come from a beautiful place where girls cannot go to school. There you are told what to believe, and even young boys must grow beards. I come from a great old forest. I think it is now a field. And the people I once knew are not there now. We can all be refugees. Nobody is safe. All it takes is a mad leader or no rain to bring forth food. We can all be refugees. We can all be told to go. We can be hated by someone for being someone. I come from a beautiful place where the valley floods each year, and each year the hurricane tells us that we must keep moving on. I come from an ancient place. All my family were born there, and I would like to go there, but I really want to live. I come from a sunny, sandy place where tourists go to darken skin and dealers like to sell guns there. I just can't tell you what's the price. I am told I have no country now. I am told I am a lie. I am told that modern history books may forget my name. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day. Sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We all came from refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody's here without a struggle. And why should we live in fear of the weather or the troubles? We all came here from somewhere. Sorry, it's a bit serious, but I'm also going to read another one, which is called The British, which some of you might have seen in the newspapers over the past few weeks. Take some Picts, Celts and Silures and let them settle. Then overrun them with Roman conquerors. Remove the Romans after approximately 400 years and add lots of Norman French to some, Angles, Saxons, Jutes and Vikings, and then stir vigorously. Mix some hot Chileans, cool Jamaicans, Dominicans, Trinidadians and Bayans with some Ethiopians, Chinese, Vietnamese and Sudanese. Then take a blend of Somalians, Sri Lankans, Nigerians and Pakistanis, combined with some Guyanese, and turn up the heat. Sprinkle some fresh Indians, Malaysians, Bosnians, Iraqis and Bangladeshis together with some Afghans, Spanish, Turkish, Kurdish, Japanese and Palestinians, then add to the melting pot. Leave the ingredients to simmer. As they mix and blend, allow their languages to flourish, binding them together with English. Allow them to be cool. Add some unity, understanding, and respect for the future. Serve with justice and enjoy. Note: all the ingredients are equally important. Treating one ingredient better than another will leave a bitter, unpleasant taste. Warning: An unequal spread of justice will damage the people and cause pain. Give justice and equality to all. I hope that's a little bit of food for thought, and I'm sorry it's so serious, but if you also want to Google his poetry about turkeys, you might find that's a little bit more exciting for Christmas. But I just want to say to you that if anyone talks to you about how many refugees there are here, that you challenge them and you say no. They are people who have travelled here for a reason. And there are an awful lot of people out on the streets at the moment because of our government policy, I have to say, who have moved people out of hotels. And do be kind to people and do think about, actually, it could be us at any time. And I'm thinking particularly actually of those people on the Isle of Wight at the moment, if anyone's seen the news, there's been a landslide on part of the Isle of Wight, which is also where my mother came from. So it's quite, again, poignant to me. And there are people who've had to move out of their homes. And this is being a refugee. It can happen to any of us at any time. So please be kind. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
And I think that's a really fantastic thing to say, Jenny, to remind us about being kind and being and putting ourselves in other people's shoes. That's fantastic. And I think his poetry is lovely, and I would recommend you have a look at the YouTube because he's got something about him, whatever. I'm not sure about the turkey one. I don't know the turkey one, and I don't want it to put me off my turkey, which I suspect it might, because I think Jenny's got a kind of a mischievous look about her. Anyway, our next, thank you to Jenny for that. We're going to move to Dianne in a moment. But before we do, we have 2 more questions for you. And so that's via Slido. And it's going to be, how many years do Christmas trees grow until they're sold? And then if you're a Christmas baby, what is your star sign? You have to be quick now because I'm going to scamper. I'm going to scamper very quickly. So if you're slow on your quiz, you'll miss it a bit. So how many years do Christmas trees grow until they're sold? 15 years, unless you are the tree that comes from Norway to London every year, and then you'd be about 50 years old and sometimes a bit older. So that's 15 years, 15. And if you're a Christmas baby, you're a Capricorn. Yeah, so that's for that one. Now I'm going to move seamlessly to Dianne Garland, who's with us also. And Dianne's a hugely experienced midwife. She's got a passion, high level of expertise in water birth. You can ask her anything on water birth and she'll have the evidence. And it's not just touchy-feely, it's the hard evidence backing it up, as well as a bit of touch and feely, nice things. She's worked as an expert witness, and she's also a specialist advisor for the CQC. So welcome, Dianne. The screen is now yours.
Thank you very much. Hopefully my slides are going to be there. I did load them while you were talking. See if they come up.
I hope the quiz didn't send them away.
No, it's on my... Anyway, let me start because I know we really push for time, and we share it. Okay. 2 seconds, hopefully. They came up nice. There's only 3 slides, you'll be glad to know. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a very passionate photographer. So nearly all of these, even when it's me in them, is often because they're selfies. So thank you very much. Thank you as well for Jenny. Mine may sound much more light than Jenny's, but that's, you know, just the balance of what we do in maternity festivals. So I just did 3 slides, just pulled some photos together. The top one where you see the 2 arches of light, I thought that actually fits in beautifully with what people have started to share. And this was only taken yesterday when I was up in London teaching at what's called Paddington Basin, which makes me laugh because it's obviously where the old docks were, but it's still quite amusing. You can see my beautiful colleague Sue there, who always enlightens me. And that was our most recent festival in Edinburgh. The other 3 on that slide, that's the local post box. We have some very ardent knitters and crocheters, and they're always doing some wonderful things as toppers on our Christmas post boxes, and that was this year's one, so we have lots of those. So I just like Father Christmas going down the chimney. That just about sums me up. And the other one, that's actually at King's Cross. They had the most amazing Christmas tree, and they had carols going. They were doing a festive send a chocolate bar to someone. And that's why my photo of my husband is in that, because he doesn't really get much of a look in with me. I'm the extrovert. I'm the Capricorn, by the way. I'm not a Christmas baby, but I'm a Capricorn. And we are known as being very extrovert. So Howard puts up with an awful lot with me. And I just wanted to share that. It was very interesting listening to Joy. Now, Joy was certainly at ICM in Bali, which many of us were, and it was a phenomenal meeting of international colleagues. We hadn't obviously met for 3 years, because obviously 2020 in Bali was cancelled. But these are just some of my international contacts, many of whom I have worked closely with, including Joy. Joy, actually, I knew way before she went to the RCM, before she went to St Thomas's with her research role. Joy actually worked at Maidstone in Kemp with me. So we've known each other as well a great many years, and I'm very proud of what Joy is doing out there. So well done to Joy. But yes, I do enjoy a little drink every now and again. The bottom photo shows me and my Australian colleague, ex-Brit, Professor Annette Briley. And yes, we did room share, and we didn't sleep very much because all we kept doing was talking. And yes, of course, it's about midwifery, but it's also about our families as well. So if you can't and haven't had a chance to look back at ICM in Bali, we're in Portugal next time, 2026. So not as expensive. And I do hope you'll come and join us. You'll meet some wonderful international colleagues, many of whom have had e-cards from me already for Christmas. And they're starting to bounce back now with people saying the same. So I thank ICM for that wonderful conference. And then the final one, just very kindly, Sue did mention it, but yes, I am very passionate about water births in all ways, shapes and forms. The middle photo, again, Annette's there on the right. We're waiting the publication of what's called the pool study, which was supported through Cardiff University about outcomes for mother and babies. So we wait with passion for that one. On the left, that was yesterday, and that's in London at one of the hospitals. And it was very relevant again, because one of the colleagues is from Iran. So she had some very interesting stories to share with us. And another colleague is from Italy. So even though we were a tiny little group, we had actually quite a good international flavour. And that's what I find wherever I teach. Yes, we do practicals, top and bottom on the right, sometimes with someone pretending to be mum in the pool with water. And sometimes, and that was a cold day in Doncaster, hence why they've all got their coats on. So we still teach, but not always with water. And then the final 2 at the bottom, just again to show, hopefully, some of the roles we go into as midwives. The one where I've got a coat on, I'm just about to go into a spa in Bad Wildbad in Germany. I was out there doing some teaching with another company, American Midwifery Today. And those book reviews are what they often send me to review for them. So The Witches, Midwives and Nurses is maybe a really good way for me to finish, because my husband always says I'm a witch, because I always seem to know what's going to happen before it happens. But I do those online, and always very interested with what people write. And I love doing book reviews. So I wish you all season's greetings. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas, New Year, a safe one, because certainly, sadly, I know people at the moment who have got the new variant of COVID, and I hope they're better for Christmas as well. But please stay safe, carry on with your fantastic work, and I look forward maybe to meeting some of you next year. So thank you again, Sue.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dianne. It's always so lovely to see your images, because they just, especially the ones in Bali, you kind of look at those and you think, I'd like to go there now, actually, especially when it's so rainy and horrible. And for those of you who've not been to an international congress, this is the best one to go on. And you just talk midwifery solidly for day after day, and it's fantastic. It recharges your midwifery batteries. So thank you for sharing that, Dianne. Thank you so much. Okay, we're moving along to the next bit. I'm told that you're still doing your quiz, which is great. So 2 more questions. A certain favourite vegetable of Christmas has over 110 varieties. What's that vegetable? It's a favourite. Not by me, but it's a favourite. So have a go at this one. We might have to run over a teeny weeny bit now. And then the next question is, what are pigs in blankets called in Scotland? And the answer is that certain favourite vegetable is Brussels sprouts. Not a favourite for mine. It's the only vegetable I'm not keen on. And what are pigs in blankets called in Scotland? That should come through. And there is some debate about this from some Scottish colleagues, and Neil, who's kind of in charge of everything, has conflicted this one, but they are apparently called kilted sausages. And those of you who know Scotland will know the little tartan kilts over a sausage. There you are. So that's the next bit now. So I'm now going to move on swiftly and elegantly to Anna Byrom. And many of you know Anna as being the publisher of Practising Midwife, Australia edition, and the Student Midwife journals, and founding director of and CEO of the award-winning all4maternity.com, supporting learning, sharing, caring needs for all midwives, maternity workers. And if you haven't subscribed, you need to, because there's lots and lots of things going on there. So Anna, the screen is yours.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. Thank you. It's really lovely to be here and to feel more festive and to be connected. And thank you to Dianne and Jenny for sharing your insights. As we were gathering our thoughts for this evening, I started to think about things that really matter to me and that have become more and more important as the years progressed. And actually, I think that for me, some of these thoughts have come out of the challenges that I'm sure are shared for many of us. As we feel the pressures and constraints of all of the challenges that are happening both at a global level, but also the impact of the fiscal climate, the pressures on us all as we recover from the COVID pandemic. One of the things that can really be at risk and be vulnerable for us all is our access to knowledge. And we know that limited access to information and knowledge can have a massive impact on our ability to provide quality care in midwifery and maternity and perinatal services. So I just wanted to highlight that that's an area for me that we need to be protective of as we journey forwards together, to make sure that all of our community feel able to access meaningful resources and updates and information. It's just to say a massive thank you to you, Sue, and to Jenny, and to the team at the Midwifery and Maternity Forum for offering information and resources, freely available to midwives and maternity workers around the world and here as well nationally. And it's really important that you provide a space for people to stay up to date and informed. And we're really grateful to be part of that. So thank you to you and all of the team, Neil and Karen and the big wider production team that make this possible. We really are really grateful. Knowledge is available in increasing volumes around the world, and we're living in the information age. And that's an absolutely wondrous thing. I absolutely love to dive into information and share knowledge and learn from colleagues and peers and reading and content. But I also recognise that as volumes of knowledge increase, it can be really difficult to harness it and understand it and comprehend it and to use it every day in our practice, especially for busy practitioners. And so I think the work that we're doing collaboratively, both across, MATFLIX and Midwifery Maternity Hour, and obviously the forum festivals, is we're making a difference to help make information meaningful to everybody so that they can inform practice. I think it's really wonderful to see how all our practitioners and colleagues then communicate this knowledge to families. And this is a lovely picture by our illustrator, Lauren Rebeck. And, one of the things that really makes a difference for me when I'm trying to learn is seeing information come to life through art and art forms, not just through the written word or listening, but actually to see ourselves reflected in imagery. What a beautiful thing for us. And I just want to send a massive gratitude and sending love to people that take time to convert knowledge into visual formats. What a beautiful thing to see midwives practicing here in this image, sharing knowledge with families, learning together, supporting each other, and just recognising there's many formats of knowledge translation and information sharing that we can use in our work as midwives, educators. I also wanted to take a moment just to remind people that in our work, we're also trying our best to make it easy for people to access knowledge at an organisational level. It's a really affordable, meaningful, just a sustainable value and rate that makes it possible for all midwives practising in maternity units and organisations, in colleges, aspiring student midwives, or in universities, to purchase a license to our memberships to make it available to everybody in the organisation. And that's something that we're really committed to across All for Maternity and MATFLIX. And how lovely that we've been able to celebrate coming together to make this a meaningful and essential resource for all. So it's been a real highlight for me this year. We want to provide a little gift to individual members that might not have it available at their organisations yet for All for Maternity resources. And we've got a special code there for all of the people watching tonight if they'd like to become a member. But we've also recognised that it's critical for us to meet together collectively as well. And we've just launched for students, put it on your Christmas list, an essential student series that we've got a special MMF code there that people can use from your community to make use of that. So that'll help them to get a more affordable rate. And these are revision and information resources to support you to build your confidence throughout your programme and study. But I just wanted to finish with the importance of epistemic injustice and addressing that. Who are the knowledge holders in our community? Who do we recognise as knowledge holders? And do you consider yourself to be somebody who is a knowledge keeper? And all I would guide you to do, like Tim Minchin says in his fantastic graduation speech, is to pass the knowledge on and be a teacher. Things that you've learned and known, take time to pass it on to other people around you. And looking at my colleagues here tonight, that's been the gift that you've afforded us. I always look to the midwives that have gone before me to learn about how to be a midwife myself. And I think that, all of the incredible midwives that we have around us, it's using them as knowledge keepers to support our ongoing development as a profession. But thank you for the opportunity to be here, Sue.
Fantastic. I love that. I love this idea of being a knowledge keeper. It sounds like I hadn't heard that. So that's a little learning. I love the maternity. I always learn something new, and that's delicious. So thank you so much. And I have to say, it ought to your whole package should have a kind of health warning, because it's a little bit addictive. Once you start going in there, it's a bit like when you do a literature search and you're looking for one thing, and you see all sorts of even more interesting things. So do have a go at looking. There's so many resources there for you. And thank you, Anna, for all that you and Sheena do as well with All for Maternity. Fantastic resource. Thank you. And thank you for being with us. Now I'm going to do a bit more quiz before we move on. This is probably one more for the English, very English people, and slight vintage. This is a vintage question from the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special of 1971. None of us will remember that because we're far too young. Can you complete this quote? I'm playing all the right notes, but ... And I think that was one with Andrew Previn, unless I'm much mistook. Okay. And then question 8, rearrange these letters to make a Christmassy word. Lens, bell, jig. And the answers are do-do-do-do. They will come up in a minute, hopefully. Da-da-da-da. Okay, that was the second one. So the answer for the first, number 7, Morecambe and Wise. Oh, our technology is a little bit grumpy tonight. Not sure why. But I will share with the speakers. The answer, the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special, is I'm playing all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. Yes, I can see some nods there. And question 8, rearrange these letters to make a Christmassy word. Lens, bell, jig. Guess what? Jingle bells. There. Okay. I'm going to move now, and I know we're running a little bit late. Very naughty chair here, letting us, but it's the quiz. It's the quiz, and maybe I had too many questions in the quiz, so apologies for that. So without further ado, I'm delighted that we're joined by Lesley Page, and I have to say, Lesley is one of our, if not the, national treasure in midwifery. And she's committed to humanising childbirth and seeing pregnancy, birth, and an early postnatal period as transformative. She's been such a mover and shaker in the maternity services and midwifery world. We always want to listen to what Lesley has to say because it always has resonance and importance for us as midwives. And I'll just remind you, she was very deservedly made a Commander of the British Empire for services to midwifery in 2014. So welcome, Lesley. The screen is now yours.
You would think that I would have learned by now, wouldn't you? I might be a national treasure, but I still forget to take my mute off. Anyway, I'm really happy to be with all of you. And so when you asked me to talk tonight for a few minutes, and I think probably I need to restrict it to about 5 minutes, I immediately thought about this time of year. It's a time of celebration, of coming together with family and friends, of feasting, of exchanging gifts. And when we remember too, Christians remember the birth of baby Jesus. And I suddenly thought, but midwives bring countless gifts to our world. And these gifts are the most important gifts that you can give. They're going to be felt through the whole of the lives of women, their babies, the other parent and family, and they're going to ripple down through the generations and into communities and society. And I have to say, thinking about what Jenny's talking about, the world has never needed the gift of midwifery more.
Mm.
And Dianne, I noticed on your slide from ICM, gentle birth heals Mother Earth. And one of the gifts that midwives bring to women and their babies and their families and the whole of life is to support that growth of love. And you know that Michelle O'Don talks about the importance of the physiology to the growth of love and attachment and commitment. And he also talks about love of our Mother Earth and the good birth of a baby, the woman's experience, and helping the mother, the woman, become a competent, capable, loving mother is absolutely critical to the future and is associated with altruism, caring about others, future relationships, and so on. So these gifts that you give as midwives are countless, and they are so powerful. They'll result in a better start in life. They'll contribute to health, well-being, positive experience, loving relationships, greater confidence and competence in parenting. They'll make possible joy, ecstasy, pride, and determination to protect and support the vulnerable newborn, the most vulnerable of being of our planet. And where there's ill health, trauma, or death, then your gifts will be to give compassion and seek justice. The first of these gifts I'm going to give is to remember that this is a critical and sensitive time. It's a time that can never be recaptured. You influence the story of this birth, the birth of the woman as mother, the baby coming into existence in the outside world, the beginning of a life full of potential and possibility, the memories. This baby will never be born again. This woman will never give birth to this baby again. It can't be recaptured. And perhaps we need to remember the words of Yeats in the poem, He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. Tread softly, for you tread on my dreams. The second gift that I've talked about already is that of loving relationship, the reciprocal relationship between the midwife and the woman or women she's caring for, and the ability of the midwife to be sensitive to the woman's needs, to her wishes, dreams, her fears, her background, where she comes from, and so on, to be sensitive to the woman's needs in the way that the woman will need to be sensitive to the baby that she is going to care for into adulthood. And this is the most critical foundation in life. So when you actually help support the woman, you help support the love and commitment, the attachment, particularly between the woman and her baby, that is critical to long-term health. Without that foundation, the start to life will be spoiled. So we have incredible power. This is the first love relationship, and the baby held in the arms of its mother or parent will know the first love embrace, the first love gaze as their eyes meet. You gift knowledge and understanding, and Anna has talked about this so eloquently, and all of you here provide that knowledge. Not only the professional knowledge, but also a knowledge about the woman and her family, the community in which she lives, her wishes and dreams and fears. I've talked about that. The gift of skills, so many of them. Not only the technical skills that are so important in reducing morbidity, mortality, leading to health and well-being, but the skills of communication, good judgment, critical thinking, listening, and reflecting. This knowledge and your skills will actually give a great gift going forward to the future health and well-being of the whole family and the baby. The gift of listening actively, compassionately, even in the most hurried and hectic of situations, is vital. The gift of compassion, so you may understand and stand with the woman and her family on their journey into this new life. These are some of the gifts you give of head, heart, and hands of midwives. They will make life and our world so much better, and I want you to remember that. And just very briefly, what are my wishes for those who support and sometimes control us midwives? Courageous and compassionate leadership, the ability to tackle and not set aside some of the problems facing us, including the science underlying much of our practice, which is seen as being contentious. Above all, my wish is for services that allow us to do our work well, enough resources and capacity, systems, structures and culture, support for the well-being of midwives, support for growth and development of ourselves and our profession, and respectful relationships between staff. I could go on with the wish list, but what I want to say is, as we think about Christmas coming up and the meaning of it, the work that you do is of the most profound meaning, being there with the woman as she brings new life into the world, the start of life for this baby. And please keep remembering just how important what you do is. I know that life can be very difficult at the moment, but keep hanging on to that. And perhaps the best gift of all is to retain your enthusiasm and your love of midwifery and an understanding of the influence of it. Thank you.
We're all busy applauding. Thank you so much, Lesley. That was lovely. Just you've captured it all so beautifully, and I love this sort of the facet of the gift that we can give and we can support, and it's lovely and perfect for this time of year. Just perfect. So you can see why Lesley is our national treasure, definitely. And thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of our speakers who've given us a little of festiveness, a little bit of food, well, quite a bit of food for thought, actually. I think within all of the presentations, there's been a kernel of something we need to think about, and some things that are a bit uncomfortable and some things that can feel nice, but still might have a bit of uncomfortableness. Now, I'm going to, we've got two more quiz questions I have to throw at you as the audience, because I know people are doing the quiz. So the last two questions here are going to be, which of Santa's reindeers has the same name as a female fox?
Oh, I know
that. And I'd just like to tell our audience that the speakers do not get a prize or the glory of winning, though they probably deserve it. And then, which sells more each year? Artificial trees or real Christmas trees? And that might surprise you. Ah, okay. It's apparently now question 9. It's the reindeer is called Vixen, same as a female fox, and real Christmas trees outweigh the artificial ones, which is nice because they're, well, I guess if you've got an old artificial tree that you've had for many years, that's quite sustainable. But taking on board what's been discussed at COP this week, we need to be much more sustainable and eco-friendly, I think, for the future. So I want to say, I'm just queuing up, and Anna, you see, I had all the skills and knowledge we have in this lovely selection box, you wouldn't believe. But Anna has done a video clip, which we're going to close with as I just conclude. So I don't think any questions have come through. So I think people are just enjoying the sort of reflective bit of this. But rest assured, we'll have our guests in again before long, because they're such good value and so fantastic, and they're the heart of midwifery, which is fantastic. hang on a minute, Anna, just hang on. I'm just going to say a big thank you to Lesley, to Joy, Dianne and Jenny and Anna, and also Angelo, who's in the background making sure everything's smooth and everything's being recorded if you should want to share this with your friends or colleagues. Plus also a big thank you to Deborah Murray and Paul, who's been feeding things through to me, letting me know what's going on with the quiz. And just to say, this will all be available on Facebook. And for those of you who are running at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, there'll be a podcast for you. And in the meantime, well, first of all, see you in 2024. How can it be 2024 coming? Series 12, 14th of January. So we've got a little break. So enjoy the festive season. In the meantime, look after yourselves, and then again a big round of applause for our lovely, lovely presenters, and see you again soon. Cue Anna.
Okay. Here you go.